market there, which obviously is a lot different than the ones that you have out in Arizona and Vegas, that those areas will rebound once we get back, I guess, on the other side of this pandemic, or is that decline that we've seen, or that softness that we've seen here to stay for a while?
Well, unfortunately, I think it's here to stay for a while. I think it's going to take a while before we see the resurgence of values and the desire to be back in the urban core. Already in the greater New York metropolitan area, we have seen the effect where single-family home prices, real estate values are really quite soft inside the city itself. We're seeing something similar in Los Angeles, too, where the inner core of the Los Angeles city is showing some moderation or slow growth in home prices. But you look at the communities outside in the suburbs, outside of LA, their demand and home prices have picked up a good deal.
Still to come, addressing inequality was a major theme in 2020 in the US elections. Will a change in the White House help bring about a more equal society?
My hope, my expectation is that we go back to leading, that leaders go back to leading.
This is Bloomberg.
Welcome back to this Bloomberg special report, The Unequal Recovery. I'm Romaine Bostick.
I'm Caroline Hyde.
And I'm Taylor Riggs. And so far in this program, we've examined how the COVID-19 pandemic has revealed structural inequalities in the U.S. economy and society. We've heard from analysts and activists who are studying these gaps and working to close them. In 2020, political organizers worked to create change by mobilizing voters of color. And we spoke with several of them about the stakes of the election.
Black folks are facing multiple pandemics in some ways, where our communities continue to be over-policed and we continue to be over-incarcerated. We have to fight for education and for economic equality. And so my fear is that those disparities continue to grow and are justified. And my hope is that whoever is elected has a vision and actually cares about Black people.
I believe we're looking to see that the economic packages, right? The economic concerns that so many have, particularly Black communities who are acutely impacted by the downturn as a result of the pandemic, but even preceding the pandemic, have been hit hard by the way that our system is designed. We're looking for substantive changes.
Shortly after Election Day, with the presidential race still not decided, we spoke with Ursula Burns. Now, she's the former Xerox CEO, now senior advisor at Teneo, and sits on the board of Uber, Exxon, Nestle, among other companies. Now, she's also a driving force behind the Board Diversity Action Alliance. It's a group guiding corporate America to put more Black executives on boards. Here's how well she's feeling about the next 4 years with the prospect of a divided U.S. government.
Divided Congress or not, corporate America's mission and requirements are the same. And that is that corporate America has to devise a plan to be a more inclusive set of organizations. We have to spread the wealth. We have to include more of the population, more of the people in the creation of the company's present and future. That means disabled people, people of color, women, gay and lesbian people, all have to be able to participate in building the great companies that today are largely led and governed by white men.
You moved to London after the last presidential election. How do you feel about America? Leave out corporate America, about America.
And I am, people would always ask me if I'm an optimist or a pessimist. And I've been thinking about this in my life, and I think that I'm intellectually optimistic, but I'm an emotionally pessimistic person. Right? That's the best way I can describe it. And I think right now I am hopeful that we are on a track that will start to bring us together versus tear us apart. The last 4 years, I don't particularly care about how well the stock market has done and how the last 4 years for any American hasn't been, and for a lot of people around the world, has not been pleasant. I cannot believe that we're sitting here going, yes, that we want a repeat of the last 4 years for the past 4 years. We don't want that. We don't feel good about each other. We don't feel good about ourselves. When you have 350 million people living in a community where basically we count on each other to protect each other, you cannot have the divisions and divisiveness that we have. We cannot have a trumpeting from the center that pulls us apart. So my hope, my expectation is that we go back to leading, that leaders go back to leading. And we get on, I'm just amazed that we are, as a country where we are, we have to figure out a way to have as many people participate and be placated, happy, served, whatever it is, as possible. When you have literally 1% or less who wield everything, power, position, privilege, and a whole bunch of people who have nothing to lose, it doesn't work. Well, not for long. So my hope in the next administration, whoever runs it, is that we actually step back for a minute and say, is there a way that we can have America where we're not walking down the streets? If you're a Black man looking over your shoulder, if you're a white man looking over your shoulder because you think the Black man is going to take their job, can we just get back to building a better future for each other? Because that's for each other and for our kids. That's the role here. It's not about whether we can make another dollar, cut another, iota of taxes over here, move the wealth from this pack to the other part. That's not what it's about. That's not what leadership is about, right? We can get the institutions to do that. We are here to assure that we are an absolutely outstanding nation. Yeah. And I tell you one thing, we're not on the path that we are currently on. I think that we can all say for sure. I live in London, and I tell you what they tell me, you are no longer this outstanding nation. And that's just not a good place to be.
That wraps up our special report on the unequal recovery. We'll continue our regular coverage of this critical topic on Bloomberg Markets The Close. We hope you'll join us every weekday afternoon. I'm Caroline Hyde.
I'm Romaine Bostick.
And I'm Taylor Riggs. Thank you for joining us. This is Bloomberg.
began as a health crisis that quickly became an economic crisis.
20.5 million jobs lost. That's a little bit below consensus. This is the worst payrolls report we've ever seen.
The virus crippled entire industries, leaving millions of people without paychecks. But the devastation has not been distributed equally.
What makes this recession a little bit special is that the shock was so idiosyncratic, was so specialized in only some parts of the economy.
Young people have had their education disrupted, their career plans upended, and their financial prospects diminished.
The people graduating from college into this pandemic, they're really getting hammered.
The sectors that are hiring right now, for the most part, are jobs that pay less.
While economists and policymakers ask, how can we protect this cohort from permanent damage?
Most of life outcomes in terms of wealth, the biggest driver is where you sit at age 23.
I don't think that we're paying enough attention to what it's going to take to make it up to those young people.
It's a twofold challenge: to regain momentum while resetting direction in a new economy. That's what lies ahead for a generation interrupted. I'm Lisa Abramovitz. Welcome